Hello and welcome to Miniature Adventures. I'm Big Lee, and this week I want to talk about yesterday's Salute 50 or Salute 2023, which took place at the Excel in London. I'm actually filming this on the Saturday evening, sat in front of my computer, editing my pictures, trying to get some show photographs out, attempting to get it out on the same day. And just enjoying reviewing the show through the pictures. And I thought that today I would actually give you sort of my impressions of the show. And overall, my impression is Salute is back. Numbers appear to be back where they belong. In fact, I was talking to one of the show organisers, and he was saying that they'd sold about, I think he said about 5,300 e-tickets and a few hundred more on the door. So, you know, we're getting back to the sort of numbers that Salute attracted before COVID. And indeed, it seemed busy all day long. I mean, I snuck off. I finally finished. I was exhausted by about 4:30, and it still seemed really busy, even at that stage in the day. So that's really encouraging, especially after what I think everyone, including the organisers, would agree was a damp squib the year before last. You know, Salute was in the post-COVID slump. It was at the wrong time of year, and it was a bit of a, you know, it was okay, but there was a lot of people missing. Today, there was a lot more traders there, a lot more clubs playing games, and the quality of the games and originality was really excellent to see, thoroughly inspiring. There were a few games that had been recycled from previous years, but do you know what, I didn't mind that. Some of them, they were good ones that got brought back, but it was really good to see so many clubs and so many traders doing good business and attracting lots of visitors. And actually this year I noted a lot more families, people, you know, couples and their children coming in. And you know, that was just lovely to see. But I think part of that is to do with the fact that they've tried to make the venue, the event, a little bit more inclusive. So there was stuff there for different types of age groups. They had a colouring zone. They had some painting participations going on. So it's a little bit more welcoming to children and families. And we're always talking about how the hobby's greying. We need to attract new children in, you know, a new generation of gamers into the hobby. And I hope that some of those little kids that I saw going, wow, you know, being blown away by what they were seeing on the table, they might not become gamers straight away, but I'm hoping that one day they'll circle back and they'll end up back in our hobby, having been inspired by some of the games they saw today. And some of the tables were truly inspiring. I mean, there's an argument to say that obviously the tables, the games that we see on at shows like this, aren't the sort of games that you would play yourself with your friends or down the club, because the terrain is just amazing. But, you know, as with all these things, it's about spectacle. It's about showing what's possible, showing off, showcasing the hobby in its grandest form, particularly for those newbies that are coming through the doors. You know, to show that we're not, you know, there were tables that were, you know, that made up of terrain that you'd expect a typical club or a game night or in your own room, but a lot of the tables were very, very, very well done. Lots of effort gone into them. And yes, there was some variety. There was some sci-fi and some fantasy, and I know that's not everybody's bag. But, you know, this is an event that's got to attract a lot of people, a broad church of games, and therefore attracting a wider audience. One innovation they did this year, which I think went down well, although I didn't stop to it myself, they had a panel area, a small enclosed area with speakers and a couple of panels and different guest speakers, and that seemed to go down well. I mean, every time I passed the panel area, there seemed to be people inside listening to what was being said, and, you know, obviously making an effort to go and sit there and listen to the speakers. So actually I think that's quite an interesting development. Whether that repeats and is used again in future years, I don't know. But, you know, it's something that goes on at comic conventions and other sorts of conventions. So I don't see why it shouldn't also be a War Games convention. I suppose a lot depends on the nature of the guests and the subjects they're going to talk about. As always, it's a pity this isn't a 2-day show, because then you'd have time to do that. I sat on the fringe of the panel area while I was eating my lunch. And there was a lot of people paying attention and that, but I didn't actually go and listen to the panellists. There just wasn't time for me. I spent all of my day wandering around, looking at the tables, getting into conversation after conversation. It was just great to see people I haven't seen in years in some cases. More than a couple of people I met I thought were dead. But it was great. It was great to meet up with them again, post-COVID, in a show that's really back to form. We had the blogger meet up at 1 o'clock, so I put a notice out. A couple of people had done the same, try and gather together about 1 o'clock, roughly in the centre of the hall, and there was quite a few faces popped up, because when you've got 5,500 visitors and probably several hundred exhibitors there, the chances of you randomly bumping into somebody it can be difficult. So having a set time and a place to meet was a great idea, because it just meant that I did indeed get to catch up with a few faces, a few people that I haven't seen in previous shows. Not for a while at least. There was a couple of people that come to the blogger vlogger meet up that I haven't seen since before COVID, so that was really nice. Just even though it was a very quick and brisk phone conversation, it was nice to shake hands, say how you're doing, ask what you bought, that sort of thing. Really good fun, and that was typical of the sort of conversations I was having all day long. It was wonderful. If you was one of the people that came up and said you were a subscriber to this channel, thank you very much. I can't possibly thank all of you individually, because I can't remember everybody's names, but it was just fantastic to have so many people come up and say that they enjoyed the channel. And as I said to many people on the day, if you've got suggestions for videos, topics for me to discuss, please do, because that's always the hardest part of putting out my weekly videos. As you probably gathered by now, I'm quite happy to talk on a subject. Just coming up with that subject can sometimes be a little bit challenging, so I'm always open to suggestions. But thank you again to everybody that sort of passed by and had a word with me. That was a great part of the day, and it did literally take me most of the day to go round. I was trying to be very methodical about how I visited each of the games tables, so that I could stick to my map, so that it was easier. It's easier, hopefully, and it has been proving to be easier to label me pictures up on the video afterwards, because I've gone through the tables one after another, and I can find them on the list of games and so on. And I was very pleased to see a lot of games tables had good signage, leaflets, posters, banners. So it's been actually a lot easier to label up and recognise games. As I said to several people, as good as every game was, when you get to the end and you're utterly exhausted, you're not going to remember every table unless you've got some sort of reference to help you figure out, right, what was that game? What was that group? Who was it I was talking to? But it's been very good. A lot of the tables had a really good signage, and so it's been excellent way of keeping track. And there was some, as I said before, there was some just fantastic eye-watering games there. Simon Miller's massive pike phalanx is just a wonder to behold. Didn't look entirely practical from the point of view of transport, or even pushing them around the table, but they were just so eye-wateringly beautiful. Who cares? He was saying to me that they'd got all of these pike phalanxes on the table with I don't know how many figures were in each pike phalanx, but it was good. There was proper full-size phalanxes. And they hadn't lost a single pike, single sarissa amongst a lot of them, so that was excellent. No doubt there may be the odd slight bit of damage by the end of the day, but you know what? They've done a good job of transporting them and getting everything there in one piece. And indeed, that has to be said for all the games. we've Postage Rejects have put on games at shows, very modest. Box it up in a few boxes. 6x4 table. Nothing fancy for the terrain. To try and put on a nice looking game, but using the sort of terrain that we would use in the shed. Maybe we're a little bit fancier because it's a demo game. But when you see these demo games at the shows and the quality and the intricacy that's gone into the terrain and the figures, and you just think like, all of that has had to be transported there. I mean, I know I was following on Twitter, and I was chatting to various people who were saying, that they'd been there the day before setting up, and they were there from like the crack of dawn to set up tables. So there's an enormous amount of work goes into running a show like this. I got me press pass. I was in there about 9 o'clock. Not particularly early, but just early enough so that I could get a little wander around and have a chat with a few people before the show started. And it was a little bit quieter at that point. The vehicles had started to leave. There was only the exhibitors in there, and it was just nice to see those last few frantic moments of setting up, before they let the horde in. And it was a horde. I walked down to the front to have a look at the queue, and it was good to see the old Salute queue back, deep, loads and loads of people queuing in the adjacent lot, waiting to come in, and they opened pretty much on time. I think it was only 1 or 2 minutes past 10, and it was a case of me having to run to get out of the way of the wave of people coming through the door, and that was just reassuring enormously. And then, of course, within minutes, the hall was full up. They'd got everyone in really quick because they've already checked all your tickets and everything. So when it comes time to letting people in, it's done in a safe and orderly fashion, says Mr. Health and Safety. But also they get everybody in really quick, so that if you're at the back of the queue, you're not going to be waiting long before you get through those doors. And within 15 minutes or so, that hall was full, and it stayed full and buzzing with people coming to view games and spend money, and it stayed like that all day. I mean, it was just starting to ease off a little bit by the time I left. There was still a good half an hour or so left of the show. By the time I'd decided I'd had enough, I couldn't feel my legs from about the knees down. But that's a sign of a good show. I'd been surviving on energy drinks and painkillers, and I managed to get through the day. And I've come back, I've got my feet up because my legs are killing me. I'm sitting here processing my pictures, and hopefully, cross fingers, because I'm doing this in the wrong order, hopefully I managed to get this video finished tonight, yesterday, from your perspective, and up for you to view some of the pictures that I took. And that's it really. I just wanted to say, what a fantastic show. The organisers outdone themselves. I appreciate there was a lot of uncertainty, especially after how poorly the previous show performed because of the timing and all the rest. But it was nice to see Salute back to its old form and absolutely packed to the gunnels with eager wargamers. Well, that's it. I hope you've enjoyed my brief and informal review of the Salute show. I hope you've enjoyed the pictures. If you haven't already seen them, please go and watch my video for me photographs from the show. I don't do video at the show because my camera, its microphone just doesn't cope with the reverberation and the noise. I really need to upgrade my camera and get a decent external mic. So I just take pictures and put them up as a slideshow. So if you haven't already seen that video, please go back and have a look at that. I think you'd enjoy it, especially if you weren't able to make the show. Just get a taster of what a fantastic show it was, and I'm really already looking forward to next year's Salute, and there will be more, I have been told. So that's it for now. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and if you did, of course, please like, subscribe and share. And if you want to keep up to date with my weekly videos, please tap the bell notification icon. So until next week, look after yourself, keep gaming, and of course, keep rolling high.